Welcome back to Sports Rock.
Sport Rock.
That was I Need a Miracle by the Grateful Dead, which is the perfect segue into our next topic, which is the Cleveland Browns and what to do this offseason. The Browns have a lot of holes that need filled, but there's a lot of options out there for them. First topic let's tackle is the position of the quarterback. What do you do, Doug?
Well, I think as far as the Browns are concerned, if Colt McCoy is not your guy, then you have to find alternatives. And if the alternative is possibly Matt Flynn, he'll be a free agent from the Packers. Not a lot of body of work to go on. If you go on by his last game against Detroit with 6 touchdown passes, it's pretty good. But if you want to go that route, then that's fine. If they don't go that route, then the option would be drafting a quarterback. And that would be probably RG3 would be their guy because Luck's not going to be available. So there's options there, whether you want to try to get a more of an experienced quarterback, though he hasn't played a lot in Flynn. He does have some experience of being in an NFL camp for the last 4 years or whatever he's been in. So you have that option there, or you just start fresh and put Griffin at quarterback and ride him.
Okay.
Well, I feel probably the number one concern in everybody's mind with the Cleveland Browns is quarterback position. I've said for most of this season, McCoy is not the man. Not that I don't dislike Colt McCoy. I think he's a competitor. He'll give you everything he's got. I just don't think he's an NFL quarterback to be a starting quarterback. I do feel if the Browns are going to look in that area, I would look more towards maybe a Flynn than going out and drafting a quarterback because most quarterbacks drafted don't pan out, and especially if they're drafted by the Cleveland Browns. I'd rather see somebody that has a little bit of experience under their belt. Granted, Flynn don't have a lot of actual game experience under his belt, but he has, like Mr. Becknell pointed to, he has NFL camps under his belt. And I would rather lean towards that, but if it came down to we don't get him and RG3 is our only option, that's fine. Then that means Seneca Wallace better be one heck of a good teacher, and he better help out really good next year to get this kid groomed to play.
Well, Seneca Wallace isn't teaching anybody. He wouldn't teach Colt McCoy the West Coast offense.
Right.
He wants to be the starter.
Well, he does at this season. He has
quarterback in the National Football.
No, at this point he has. But if it's to keep his job, it may change. I don't know.
Here's the thing.
I just think they need help at that position tremendously.
Another thing you failed to mention is RG3 is a Heisman winner who most...
Jinx.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of Heisman
Jinx.
winners do not make it in the NFL.
It's a jinx. I'm sorry.
I don't think he's going to be available. I really don't. Unless Cleveland wants to trade up to get him, I could see the Redskins hopping over Cleveland and making a deal with Minnesota or, a team like that absolutely needs a quarterback. I think you have to take him out of the question whenever you're talking quarterback, and I think really it just comes down to, do you go out and sign Matt Flynn or do you stick with Colt McCoy? Matt Flynn's going to be a starting quarterback somewhere in the NFL next year. The only question is where. I think he's solidified that right. He's been in Green Bay for 4 years. He's been in that high-powered offense system. He's watched Aaron Rodgers. I'm okay with the fact that he hasn't played much because Rodgers didn't play a lot until last year was his breakout year pretty much. So, and he's been like, what, this is his 7th year, 8th year?
Rodgers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm okay with Flynn. Honestly, I like Flynn a lot. I was early on it, on saying that they should be interested in him. But if you do decide to keep Colt McCoy, you have to go out and you have to get him weapons. And
Is Kyle Orton an option?
No. I wouldn't make Kyle Orton an
nope.
option at all. There's no way.
You'd rather have Colt McCoy than Kyle Orton?
Absolutely.
I'd rather
Absolutely,
have
I would.
Seneca Wallace than Colt McCoy over Kyle Orton.
Yep.
Plain and simple. I would much rather have Seneca Wallace over those two.
I think Cleveland's going to be in a predicament because I think at 4, I think the top 3 picks are going to be Luck, RG3, and Blackman, or Luck, Blackman, and RG3. So then you're looking at, what do you do now? You could take Floyd. You could take Jeffrey, although it might be a little high. But I think I would say trade down, honestly, or go after. You could go after Richardson, or you could go after some cornerbacks. You got Claiborne and you've got Kirkpatrick. I mean, there's a lot of options for Cleveland out there.
Well, when you've got as many holes as Cleveland has, there's options all over the place.
Swiss cheese, baby. Swiss cheese.
But you have first, if you decide that quarterback is the route you want to go in free agency, and you go after Flynn, and you get Flynn, then when the draft comes, you don't have to select Griffin if he's available.
Right.
You can go for Richardson possibly, though drafting a running back that high anymore is extremely shaky. Most teams don't like to do that.
Right.
Though if you trade back, could you still get Richardson maybe and pick up extra picks? That's a possibility. I think they need to look at free agency. There's going to be some wide receivers available in free agency.
Yes.
Dwayne Bowe may be available. Pierre Garcon from Indianapolis could be available. Brandon Lloyd,
Who I like a lot.
could be available or will be available.
Yeah.
So if you go out and say you sign Flynn and you sign Bowe and Lloyd, well then my pick in the first would be Trent Richardson, because you've got Flynn as your quarterback and you've picked up Bowe and Lloyd as receivers to go with Greg Little.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Peyton Hillis isn't going to be back. I'm not counting on Montario Hardesty by any stretch of the imagination.
No.
Chris Obanaya I can't count on. Brandon Jackson will be coming back, but he's not an every down back anyway.
No.
Richardson is an every down back. He can catch the ball in the backfield. He's a stud running back. Then if you go into next year, say you could pull all these moves off, you're looking at an offense with Flynn at quarterback, Richardson at tailback, and Lloyd, Little, and
Well, and
Bowe on the outside. Your offense has changed 360 degrees.
You've also got a low to mid 20s pick. Kendall Wright will definitely be available at that point. I would assume.
If Kendall Wright, if Kendall Wright is still there when they pick 22nd or wherever Atlanta's pick might end up,
Right.
and he's still available, I'm still looking, because he's a burner.
Yep.
Bowe is not that big of a burner. Lloyd is more of a kind of a possession guy. So is Little in some respects. Kendall Wright can fly,
Mm-hmm.
and somebody's going to have to stretch the field. The Browns have nobody now on that team that can stretch the field. Massaquoi cannot do it. Cribbs cannot do it. Little is more of a guy that works inside than a burner outside. So I would still be looking, even if you sign, and two receivers might be a lot to sign in the offseason, especially those high-caliber players. I would still be looking at a receiver at 22 or 24, wherever Atlanta might be.
Now, what about going after? Now, let's say you do sign Flynn and you do sign a Lloyd or a Bowe, and you're looking at getting Wright. You've also got Nick Toon and Devere Posey in the second, maybe third rounds too. You got Monty Ball in the second round. So if you don't want to take Richardson or a receiver, would you look at a Morris Claiborne or a Dre Kirkpatrick to help us out in the secondary?
With a fourth pick.
Sure. Or trade down to like 8th or 9th.
Well,
make a deal with Miami
if RG3 is there and you've already signed Flynn, so quarterback is not a need, and there are teams, say Miami at 9. I don't really want to go farther down, down than 9.
Right.
If there's a team that's willing to play ball somewhere in the 6, 7, 8 range, whatever those teams are, that are willing to give you their number 1 plus maybe their second round pick in order to move up in the draft, then yeah, because Richardson, you can take Richardson at 9. I think he'll probably still be available. Most teams are not going to jump on a running back. It just doesn't seem to be the in vogue thing in the NFL.
Right.
They're looking for quarterbacks. Receivers, and this is a good receiver class. I just think the Browns are. It all depends. Free agency is eminent of what the Browns are going to be able to do in the draft.
Would you consider trading up to get RG3?
No.
Or Jay Black, as they like to call him.
No, I don't want to see the Browns trade both their number 1s to move up 2 spots to get Blackman. Will he be a great player? Yes, but will he be a great player with Colt McCoy throwing it to him? Probably not. Will he be a great player with Matt Flynn throwing it to him? Maybe.
Would you do it for RG3?
Cleveland needs speed. They
Yes.
need playmakers and they need speed. If that means RG3 at 1 and Kendall Wright with a second first-round pick, both from Baylor, which would be kind of ironic because their first pick last year was Phil Taylor from Baylor.
Yeah.
Awesome.
They'd be like the Baylor Browns. There's so many things to go into this draft. First is free agency. When you look at free agency, if we can get a quarterback in free agency like Flynn, apparently nobody else likes anybody else, and there's really not a whole lot out there to choose from. Drew Brees isn't coming to Cleveland, I don't think.
Well, you can go after Trent Edwards.
Well, yeah, I said Kyle Orton, and that you guys shot that down pretty quick. So, then
if you lose your starting job to Tebow, we don't want you.
Well, that
wasn't.
I think Kyle Orton was forced out.
I think he was too.
In
but
Denver. Yeah, he went to Kansas City and didn't do a bad job in Kansas City's system for about 3 or 4 games. He didn't play a whole lot, but he sure helped beat Denver the second time around.
Would you put the bank on him? Would you make him your franchise quarterback?
Well, I don't. There's very few franchise quarterbacks in the National Football League. You can count them on probably one hand.
Okay, would you go after him and think that you could win with him?
With Kyle Orton?
Yes.
Yes.
Really?
Yes, I think you can. But once again, you've got to put players around him.
True.
If you have Kyle Orton as your quarterback and you can be able to pick up a bow and you can draft a stud wide receiver and get a running back, I mean, Cleveland's got so many holes to fill, and but I think that they've got to go offensive. Their first 2 picks in the first round and that first pick in the second round, they've got to go offense. They've got to go speed. They've got to get faster.
Yes.
Okay, I got a comment on this too, and I totally agree with needing speed on offense and being faster.
Yep.
But I also feel that a very important pick on offense has got to be more help on the offensive line. Whether you're getting in free agency or drafting, you've got to get some help.
And there's some good linemen.
If you do not have somebody there to protect, you could have the greatest quarterback in the world, the greatest receivers and running back. If you don't have anybody up front to do the job,
right,
it's a moot point.
But you've got a left tackle in Joe Thomas. Steinbach should be back at guard, though they like Pinkston. They think Pinkston has played well. Joe Thomas really talked him up the last couple of weeks.
Yes, he has.
Alex
Yes,
Mack at center. You should feel pretty good about that.
Yes.
Right guard, Sean Laval could be an issue. And
obviously
right tackle is a huge issue.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes. Oh, there's no doubt about that.
But you're not going to use the number 4 pick, and you're probably not going to use that 22nd or 24th pick, whatever it land is, on a right tackle. You're just not going to do it, and you're not going to do it on a right guard. You can fill those spots in either through free agency or later in the draft. You've got to get playmakers.
I do agree with you, though. We do need playmakers. We don't have any, and we definitely need playmakers.
All right, well, that'll do it for the Browns talk for this show. We'll definitely be getting into it more as the draft approaches. We're going to leave you with Mary Jane's Last Dance by Mr. Tom Petty. Join us for our next segment.
She grew up in an Indiana town, had a good-looking mama who never was around, but she grew up tall and she grew up right with them Indiana boys on an Indiana night. Well, she moved down here at the age of 18. She blew the boys away, it was more than they'd seen. I was introduced and we both started grooving. She said, I dig you, baby, but I got to keep moving on. Keep moving on. Last dance with Mary Jane. One more time to kill the pain.